Okay. So, first questions again? Yes, please.
One question and one comment.
Yeah.
The first question regarding call for co-partners. In one of the points that you were mentioned during this presentation was that applicants may propose complementary activity. As far as I know, that complementary activity is not part of public partnership between the Commission and JU. It is funded by 100% by the industry, complementary activity. I would like to ask whether who is going to pay this complementary activity if theoretically you may consider that co-partners will not propose complementary activity, so that we only apply for the activities that half of this budget is from the Commission side, that they contribute in kind for only activities that are not part of complementary. So this is one question. And one comment, one question regarding single entity applicants. Single entity applicants, SME, university, research organizations, and so on. I would like to ask whether it is not theoretical. I cannot imagine at this moment how a single entity can apply for a co-partner, for example, SME, research organization, or university. It does not depend on whether it is called for co-partner or call for proposals. So, call for proposals also, in my opinion, it is rather theoretical. Or maybe you convince me that I am wrong. Thank you.
If I may start with the second one, so the call for proposal today in Clean Sky 1, we are considering that the minimum value of the topic shouldn't be too low. So probably there will be a decision that the threshold, that the minimum value of the topic for call for proposals for partner will be in the order of €500,000. Today we started at the beginning of the program with very low. And one of the things that I think was maybe only mentioned, that we are getting the derogation that we don't need consortia to apply for call for proposals. So even a single applicant can apply. And we have experience today of a single SME with a topic of 200 kilo euro is applying alone, is evaluated with the proposal, and is winning the grant agreement for partner. Why you think is not feasible?
Yes, I know that in case of SMEs having high-tech capacity, yeah. But for example, a research organization or university, have you such an example in Clean Sky with a single university?
So, do you want to say that?
Well, as far as I know, there is one call where from Poland, the Institute of Aviation has won as a single entity.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm satisfied.
Yes, yes. And for the first question instead, I think maybe there is, and we should clarify this in terms of terminology. One thing is the additional activity, and one thing is talking about complementary activity, which in our meaning is that the leaders, as they will explain in the presentations, they are already identifying areas, work packages, where they intend to publish as the call text, the content of work, where the core partner should apply and say, I'm able to perform this activity and to contribute to this. When we talk about complementary, it means that we expect that the core partner could identify in the spirit of the platform areas of activities which are not defined or contained or detailed already, and propose something else, something that in the overall content of the platform can be considered complementary, in meaning it is not inside but is consistent with. So that's why we use complementary. So to make a simple example, a technology is focusing on a certain application of composites. In the work package proposed, there is a list of technologies to be applied. The core partner can decide, I have another technology which is different from the one that you have proposed. And it is the right of the core partner to propose this and say, I think this is also applicable, even if you have not identified that as the candidate. This is what we mean by complementary. It is different from additional. Okay. But Bruno, you want to clarify? Because additionality is in the work, is in the approach from the Commission. And you can explain about the total budget we have today for Clean Sky 2.
Yes, I don't want to create confusion with this. So very briefly, additional activities is something that, it's a concept that comes from the regulation of Clean Sky. Very briefly, the leaders, the 16 leaders of Clean Sky 2, had basically to put on the table to propose also some additional activities. So they have signed a declaration of around €1 billion. That is a description of activities that are outside the work program of Clean Sky, but nevertheless have been presented in order to show that there is a leverage effect between the project that we are funding and other activities that are run by the leaders. So now this is something that was basically requested and run in order to ensure basically that the budget, the total budget of Clean Sky 2 would match the 50-50 balance. It was more for, I would say, high political reasons. What we ask to the core partners to, I would say, put on the table today, as Giuseppe said, is a proposal which match the scope of the topic, but nevertheless other complementary activities that have not to be misunderstood with the additional activities that you will find in the text of the regulation. So these are two different concepts. It's very important to make this difference. On the single entity, as Giuseppe said, this is really something that in Clean Sky proved to be very effective in the call for proposals. We have a lot of single entities, or we have a lot of SMEs teaming up with the research organization, or SMEs teaming up with the university. So this proved really to be very effective, and we decided to keep this in Clean Sky 2. So if your question is how this is going to be realistic for the call for core partners, we hear that there are SMEs or research organizations that have the capability to apply as a single entity. If you cannot, but nevertheless as an SME or a research organization you want to apply, consortium of cluster or other way of basically teaming up with other entities is a way forward. So it's, I would say, a system that gives you some flexibility, but specifically for the call for proposals, we believe that the single entity is essential.
Any other question? I would like to comment on the famous issue of the 50% and funding rate. It is true that the in-kind contribution and the funding rate apply. However, the work packages for the core partners imply, as in the call for proposal, so the topics as a value. The topics means the global, the activity, the project to be performed as a certain total value. So the single partner, the single applicant, or the cluster has to be prepared to develop activities which are worth in total that amount. Then the funding rate, the funding rate, which is targeting always to the 50-50, more or less, the funding rate can say that if you are performing a project which is worth 10 million euro in total, your funding will be either 5 million or 4.5, 5.5, depending on your structure of cost, on your financial accounting system, and the funding rate that, as Bruno said, is not defined yet, but it is in the area between 60 or 70 plus the 25. So the direct cost will be funded either 60 or 70, and the 25% of the flat rate applicable to the indirect cost. So the sum of these two there are discussions in place about which one is then covering in the average all the members, because the 50-50 was easier. Now, with this different formulation of the funding, which is a simplification, is making things a bit more complex. If you have more different entities with their own cost system, and therefore what is applicable to one can be either penalizing or even be more than 50-50 for another. But this is certainly a different matter. For the core partner, this will be defined before launching the call, and therefore the applicant will know what is the rate, the funding rate, which is applicable for the selected core partners. Any other question in general? It's all clear about clustering, okay? So, may I comment? Of course, the consortia are applicable. So, instead of clusters, which allow the simplification from our side to have a single interface, a single point of contact, like a single entity behind which there are all the members of the cluster, the consortia, of course, is still applicable. So you can team as a consortium, and in that case, unfortunately, means that for us are all the members of the consortia which are with whom we will sign. They will be evaluated as a consortium, as a core partner, and then they become all the components of this consortium, they become core partners, like it is today with the associates. Because as you know, in Clean Sky 1, the concept of cluster in 2007-8 was assumed to be feasible, and then due to different reasons, this could not really be implemented as expected. But in Clean Sky 2 and in the Horizon 2020, the concept of cluster is fully applicable, provided the compliance with the criteria that Bruno mentioned are met.
Maybe one question. How many strategic topics do you expect in Clean Sky 2? Because theoretically, from the budget for from the budget for co-partners, which amounts theoretically 540 million euros, you can expect 180 applicants for co-partners. Do you expect the same number of strategic topics? And how does it affect if the number of topics is less than 180? And then what is the impact on call for co-partners with minimum contribution 5 million euros?
What do you
It's a bit like, I cannot really provide you an answer. We have got some estimation, but I cannot share this with you today. It's our internal, I would say, estimate of, I would say, how many, not applicants, but how many core partners may result in the end. Of course, the idea is not to have hundreds of core partners. You will understand that the role of core partners is really, I would say, bringing, again, I make still reference to these medium long-term objectives and so on. It's really a specific role with, you know, lot of, I would say, responsibility and vision to be considered. So I would say that we don't have figures to tell you today. I don't know how many topics will be published, but for sure, what it's important to do is to try to group also sometimes to consider the topic as including different work packages. So when we talk about topics, topics may include also more than one work package. But again, the composition of a topic is not something to be done artificially, just to see how many core partners may I basically get on the market. It's linked to some technical analysis that is carried out by the JU and the leaders. But again, it's always technically driven. We cannot really compose topics basically trying to get every, you know, the maximum number of core partners from the market. This is not what we want. Also because when we talk about steering committees, governing board, and so on, you need also to have a limited numbers of, say, of players, because it's something that is going to be manageable. When we talk about managing an ITD, you can't have 100 core partners sitting around the table. This needs to ensure proper management as well. So we've got some internal estimation, but I can't really, I will say now, I don't really, we cannot share with you today. But of course, the idea is to make the program as open as possible. It's a very competitive program. So the idea is really basically to involve as many players from the market as possible, but considering, again, the technical objectives. This is the main goal.
If I can add, the idea is not per ITD or IADP. This number of core partners shouldn't be tens. 10 or 20. So as the 10 million euro of value is the threshold, is the lower threshold, there could be, and we have not fixed any upper level. But of course, there could be a core partner performing activities worth 20 million euro in the program, and therefore it accounts for one. And in terms of the management of the IADP or IDP, these core partners cannot be more than a certain number. This is left to the decision of the leaders to decide on technical content and consistency of the packages to be assigned and to be performed by these core partners. So the upper limit is the calculation that you did, of course. We think this is really the upper limit. There will be something between, so lower than that, and but according IADP and ITD internal assessment of what is the best number and the most appropriate contribution performed by the core partners. It is time to stop, more or less? Yes.
Maybe I would like to ask one more question. When we will know the topics?
The call is what was mentioned. So I used so we hope to launch the calls before summer. I think this is our target. And before summer, as Bruno was saying, it can be, it's certainly not before May, because we are expecting the approval by May. It could be between May and July. If we manage, say, to target June, could be a good date, and then the open call would stay for not less than 3 months, or maybe more, as we have summer in the middle. So our idea in the planning Bruno showed, I think, is this election could should take place before the end of the year. That is the target, I think.
Officially, yes, this is the timetable, but you will see already in some presentation from the leaders that you will already find out which are going to be the main areas for strategic topics. What we are trying to do now is to basically allow an early publication, or at least during the info days we will try to advance in terms of specifying the strategic topics. So I think that the more we are advancing, the more clear will be specifically which are going to be the strategic topics. So the work plan, again, is going to be adopted by the governing board, but if we can try to publish a provisional version before that, of course, we will do that. We are working actually in that direction with the leaders to have this information as soon as possible.
Okay. So if there are no other questions, we will break for the coffee break, and then start with technical presentations. Shall we keep the same time? So the coffee break is only 20 minutes instead of 30, but I hope it's okay. So we reconvene at 11 sharp here. Okay, thank you. Can you check your registration for the B2B meeting with the schedule? Thank you.